Namaste, and welcome to our continuing series on homeopathy with our beloved Dr. Pachegaonkar. Today we're going to take up appetite. It's a big subject.
Yes. Appetite, hunger, satiety, these are things well managed in our body. It's wonderful example of storekeeping, where the demand and supply and storage, everything is organized properly in our body. Let us see how appetite is regularized. There are hormones which are released in our body as a part of feedback mechanism to govern the intake of food or inhibition of appetite. For example, leptin. Leptin is hormone which is released by fat cells, and our intestines. This is the source of leptin, and main job of leptin is to inhibit appetite, lower the appetite.
To inhibit it.
Yes. See, like during sleep, if someone eats dinner, say by 6 o'clock in the evening, even for 12 to 14 hours, one doesn't feel hungry.
Very true.
And the reason being that leptins are secreted in our body which lower the appetite. So you don't feel hungry.
Very true.
If there is a lot of fat in our body, then also body regularizes that your appetite should be reduced so that this fat can be consumed. So it's a wonderful regulation. But there are even so many other elements which balance it. Like ghrelin, this is another hormone which is released in our body when you need food. So typically before meals, your ghrelin levels are increased so that you feel like eating. You start relishing food. And the moment you are filled, that ghrelin secretion is inhibited so that
How do you spell that, sir?
Ghrelin. Ghrelin. So this is exactly what we can say neutralizer to leptin. So here, when someone is having, say, like paucity of supply, storage is depleting, and you start getting ghrelin released, then you feel appetite for food, you start relishing food, and the moment it is filled, the levels of ghrelin start lowering, so you get satiety. It's well organized feedback mechanism. Many times, if like someone not sleeping well, that's what we always insist upon, following the circadian rhythm. Because if you sleep at night, that as we always insist upon midnight being the midpoint of sleep,
Yes.
the secretion of leptin and ghrelin is regularized properly. But by chance you are awake, you don't sleep, then the leptin secretion is not there. And then you start getting more and more appetite. Appetite is not controlled. And you start overeating or even odd time eating. And then again, that overeating leads to so many things like obesity and diabetes and whatnot. Same way, there is element insulin. It is secreted in our islets of Langerhans in pancreas. Insulin again regularizes the carbohydrate metabolism. The carbohydrates are consumed with the help of insulin. And if insulin is secreted more or if it is in abundance in our body, then the feedback mechanism gives rise to formation of anti-insulin element, what we call insulin registers. And more insulin registers are there, the insulin becomes ineffective. And again the carbohydrate levels start rising.
And is this the cause of
Again,
diabetes?
yes. Yes, and if glucose levels are like increased, then body starts promoting what we call fatty degeneration. The storage of fat in liver is the result of raised blood sugar or the glucose levels in our body. So insulin also is another element which influences our appetite and satiety. So more the higher levels of insulin occur, then the anti-insulin or insulin resistors are more, and then that also gives rise to obesity. Because insulin levels, definitely if they are raised, there would be consumption of carbohydrates in our body. And because there would be more consumption of carbohydrates, you will feel that supply is needed. And under that delusion, the person goes on relishing food or eating food or he longs for food. So these are the feedback mechanisms which influence our hunger and appetite and satiety. Then there are peptides, the neuropeptides secreted in our brain, where if there is a stress like activity, some stressful situation where the brain has to work hard under stress, there also these neuropeptides, their secretions are more, and under that influence even the glucose levels, carbohydrate levels also rise. Body demands more carbohydrates because in our brain the main calorie supply is from carbohydrates. Elsewhere proteins, fat, everything is consumed for energy, but in brain our body needs carbohydrates.
My two friends went on the marathon this last week, and they said they had to have heavy carbohydrates the day before for running 10, 20 kilometers.
Yes, because carbohydrates give instant energy. They give instant energy, and very active one can become with that. That's why if steroids are given, person is elated and carbohydrate level, these levels are increased under influence of steroid. So here, when we say like satiety, hunger, or appetite, or even relishing food, much depends upon the balance of these hormones. So we always say that if the person, the consciousness level at even cellular level, if it is better, this feedback mechanism works wonderfully well. There would be no obesity, there would be no paucity of energy, everything will be, in perfect harmony. So therefore we always advocate that drink ample of water, hydrate yourself, then follow the food timings, eating timings, so far as possible during day, like sunrise to sunset, and midnight should be the midpoint of sleep. If these things are followed, these mechanisms work wonderfully well.
Now, is there any truth in the saying that I believe it's an old English saying, uh, breakfast like a prince, lunch like a king, and dinner like a pauper?
I agree. Of course, what happens if we are eating early dinner, then quantity can be little more also. Like there should be sufficient time for digestive system to complete the digestion before one goes to bed. This is what is prerequisite for sleep. So if someone happens to eat and by chance because of tiredness or need for sleep, one sleeps early even before digesting the whole food, then the body goes in turmoil. In the sense, like remaining body is asleep, and whereas stomach has to churn the food and intestines have to work hard for digestion. So that contrast will never give you a tranquility in sleep. And therefore we say either eat very light or your
early.
digestion should be over before you go to bed.
Yes.
So even early eating can compensate. So better start with breakfast, because for 12 hours body has gone into like fasting. 12 hours there is no digestion, no supply, it is only
Yes.
consumption.
Yes.
So whatever is in the reserves or storage, that is exploited, and it is well maintained. So it is always better to have 3 meals or 2 meals. Even 2 meals should be fine, so long as both all the meals are during day. During day means midday should be the midpoint.
Okay.
Not because we have seen in near North Pole, like Norway and even UK,
Yes, yes.
you're in summer the day is 16 hours, 17 hours day. So there you can't eat from sunrise to sunset.
Right.
But midday should be the midpoint, and you can eat for say 8 to 9 hours. So around like 13 to 14 hours you must be fasting. So that it is like intermittent fasting. So 13 14 hours the person is not providing any food for digestion, and whereas whole consumption of food is within 8 to 9 hours. So this type of intermittent fasting, where there is no supply and body needs constant supply of calories, and therefore the reserves are exploited, so everything is cycled well. So it is always advised that you for 8 to 9 hours you eat, where the midpoint should be midday, like 12 noon, and remaining time you don't eat, you can just drink water, and there is no supply. So body maintains the storage system wonderfully well. There are herbal remedies in homeopathy. We have wonderful remedies which regularize your appetite properly. Like the best would be example would be the plant alfalfa. You know, this is like we it's a fodder for horses.
Alfalfa, sure. No,
Yes.
very well.
Yes. So alfalfa is a remedy which regularizes your appetite. The best part with alfalfa is like where there is a need, body promotes appetite, and wherever there is no need it does not promote appetite. That's what we say, it moderates, it regulates the appetite. So there are wonderful remedies which have these. Of course, in homeopathy what we do is we don't diagnose that the person is lacking in appetite, and therefore we always select a remedy based on totality. Another example which regularizes appetite is anacardium. Anacardium is again a plant, you see. Anacardium regularizes appetite, and indicators for anacardium are like where the person is always happy when he eats. Tremendous appetite the person has, and which is a typical case of duodenal ulcer. And we have seen that this anacardium regularizes the appetite, and where the person feels satiety even with a moderate amount of food, and that hunger pains, or that constant hungry feeling, that is resolved by use of anacardium in higher potency.
Now, anacardium, I mean the fruit, the cashew,
Yes.
it gets bad press. They say you shouldn't eat cashews. Is it true?
Actually, anacardium is not exactly the same cashew we eat.
Oh, it's not.
It's similar to that.
Oh,
So
okay.
nuts, where in Marathi we call biba, and that is used for even the black pigmentation also, that flower. It's consumed. So anacardium, it has fat in it.
So it's not occidentale.
Oh, no. Anacardium,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
So orientalis.
Orientalis.
Anacardium orientalis. So that anacardium we use for duodenal ulcer, and it's a wonderful remedy. Though all these remedies have indicators at the mental symptom. Like anacardium is a person who is prone for stress. He is prone for stress. Such a stress the person gets that if one is choosing a shirt or a dress in shop, that person just becomes indecisive. The duality in the mind is so much, the person doesn't have confidence, the rationale is lost, he is not able to work out what it would be the best thing, and he becomes utterly indecisive. This is the indicator for this. So that means, see, the appetite is directly related to stress. If someone is stressed up, then as a matter of distraction, either they go for eating, or more than that, there are peptides, neuropeptides secreted because of stress, and therefore again provoking hunger, and therefore goes on eating. So right from obesity to emaciation, our what we call a moderation in the release of hormones can be achieved by our regular lifestyle. It's a wonderful complex.
And what about stress in work, stress with people? This anacardium also works.
Yes, it's a wonderful remedy for stressful situation. We have given an accordion where the person, we have seen the description how people give that the person says, I go on eating, my stomach is full, but
Ah,
I'm not feeling satiated. I always feel that I must look for something. So sometimes I keep everything ready and I wait for my stomach to be empty so that I can consume more. So these are all the symptoms which are related to our brain, you see.
yes, it's a mental thing. Yes.
It is not that only because of just to have distraction or escape from stress person is eating. It is really at structural level, at tissue level, the hormones are in imbalance. So the hunger hormone, that ghrelin, is secreted more and more in spite of eating, so that satiety doesn't come and person goes on eating. And anacardium has helped the people wonderfully well.